Well, it's another weekend and time to get some more work done on this car. I've had a little bit of a slow few weeks, but it's called life, I guess. I got the top radiator hose put in. I just actually made a trip down to the local wreckers, grabbed a bunch of different radiator hoses from a bunch of different cars, made what would fit out of like 4 hoses. That's the piece that succeeded to be the best one for the top. The bottom piece I don't have. It's very intricate. It's like a big question mark that has to come out from the block and then run back around and into that bottom radiator plug there. So I'll probably just go to Super Cheap and get that hose. I haven't yet plumbed the intercooler. I'm going to leave that till last. Priority for today though is the fuel tank, which like I said I finally got back. I need to put the fuel pump in there, which is sitting on my bench. That's kind of pretty much wired up. It's got to go in there, and then the fuel tank has to go in the car. I've got the breather hose to sort out, and I got the fuel filler hose to sort out. Now the only fun part with this is I did some repair work to the inside. Let me put you guys down for just a second. I gotta put this up. I only got one hand. All right, that's better. Trusty cardboard pole. So I did some repair work to the back of this when I was doing the body work of the car, which I didn't record because I didn't think about doing it back then. Basically, the whole bottom section of this had rusted out. I cut all the way around the spare wheel well and re-welded a new piece of flat steel into place, and just for shits and giggles I fiberglassed around the edges just to kind of make sure that it's completely sealed up, and it works a treat. So the problem I got now is when the fuel tank goes in from underneath, from under there, I need access to the actual pump and a hose. That's the fuel pump hose there. I went and bought a brand new fuel line. I did go to the wreckers, like I said, and tried to find a fuel hose, but there was just nothing long enough. Plus, new fuel hose is far more safe than buying some wrecker's fuel line with cracks in it and old. So it went brand new fuel hose. It wasn't the cheapest in the world, but I'm happy putting new fuel line in this. I got to cut open a little hole for the pump to fit in, and got my fuel cap there, and I've just kind of peeled back this panel, so my fuel tank filler pipe is down there. As far as a breather hose is concerned, or fuel return from the engine, fuel pump pumps the fuel up to the motor, to the fuel rail, and then from the fuel rail it comes back down, and I had to work out what I'm going to do as a fuel return, because I got the little bungs are welded up on the fuel tank. I don't have a fuel return on it anymore, so what I've decided to do is on the breather hose side of the fuel filler neck, which runs up to the top of this neck here, I put a T-piece in place, a brass fitting T-piece, and that line there is fuel return from the fuel rail, and it's going to come back in here and hopefully drain straight back down, and that will plug onto the top of the fuel tank. Hopefully that works really well. We'll give it a go, and if not, it's just hose. I can change it and fix it later, but for now that's going to do. Got sniffles today. Lovely winter. So yeah, pretty much I got to get underneath the car and try and fit the fuel tank in, but let's go put the pump in the tank first, because I think I'm ready to do that. All right. A little bit dusty. Yep. Alright, now I think the main thing is just making sure that this fuel level, now even if this reads with the fuel gauge I have, I'm not too sure, but I'm not going to remove it. It looks pretty much good to fit if I put it on that angle there. That gives plenty of room inside the tank back in this corner. If I have the fuel sender unit facing out there, there's actually baffles on the inside of this tank and they're going to hit it. Maybe even like that will work, but let's see how we go. Firstly, I will take this off here. Alrighty, so I don't know how well you can see in there, but the green O-ring is now squished nicely. It's actually not the best to video with. But yeah, the O-ring is squished nicely in between those two plates. I don't need to do it any more than that. The O-ring is definitely firm in there. And it looks pretty even all the way around, so I'm pretty happy with that. It is sealed and in place. So now the fun part is mocking this whole tank up underneath the car, working out where I need to drill or cut out a little area from the wheel well, just so that I have access to this fuel pump. I kind of wish this was facing that way, but because the way the fuel sender had to fit, it had to go out, but that's alright, it'll just curve around. So I've got to take this down the back of the car and fit it in. There's so much crap under here. So these are not very straight looking, but I'll straighten these out once I know the tank has been cut in the right place. So basically underneath here, right up under here, I've got to cut a hole so the top of the fuel pump can pop through. We can attach it. So I'm just going to kind of mock it up. Time to get the grinder out. Whew. That's one thing for sure, that was a pain in the ass. I didn't want to record it because I was all over the place underneath the car, up here, in there, just trying to get the cables and fit it all properly. Okay, so where we're at, we've got the pump in, I've got the fuel sender hose running off to the front of the car, which is great. So this is the little hole that I had to cut out to fit it in. So what I will need to do is get some form of cover that sits about 1 inch high, just to cover that little hose clamp there, and just to sit over that so I can remove it if I need it. I'll work something out later. I also need to plug in my 12 volt power supply to the fuel pump, and my earth, I'll just earth it to a nearby body bolt somewhere. I've got the fuel filler hose in. That there is my fuel return from the rail, and that should just go into this breather hose, which should drip back into the tank. Here's hoping. It's accessible down there, so I can change it if I need it. This panel's going to have to get remade. Not only have I destroyed the bottom of it, it's come off, but also the filler hose is in the way, so there must be some other kind of, I don't know, thing there that works. I'll do that later. That's just some more stuffing around. So yeah, I need to bolt the fuel filler cap into position. But as soon as this is powered up, I got power going to that. And there's some fuel in the tank, which I wouldn't mind doing today. I'd like to see if this sucker starts. All I want it to do is fire. I don't want to actually run the engine, as I don't have any radiator fluid, or I don't even have the airflow meter on it actually, but I'd just like to know if it fires. So yeah, that's fun. I got fuel hose everywhere. Now I had to run my fuel filter. I just got an inline fuel filter and I've just ran it down here. I'm not overly happy with the position of it. There's nowhere for it to live down there before the fuel rail. There's just simply no room. So, and also the fuel hardline from the chassis of the car is on this side, but my fuel rail is on that side. So I've had to go from here to the fuel pump and over to the rail. I'll find another spot for this. Yeah, so I'll find somewhere else for this to live. Well, or I'll make a bracket or something, but right now it is firm in place there. I just don't really want it. I don't want the body of the fuel filter touching anything. And at the moment, it is touching the brake booster. So we're getting there, slowly. Underneath the tank is in. And I'll see if I can show you any form of detail into here. So again, I got my fuel intake and return lines here running down the chassis. I still have to put the hose clamps. There's one there. I have to put the hose clamps on them because I ain't running a fuel line without clamps. That's a silly thing. They run up through there. Not very detailed at the moment, but can't do much about that. And then yeah, go up into the tank in there. Blah 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 blah. Let's get back out because it's very claustrophobic in there. So yeah, that's the tank in. One step closer. I think I'm going to start looking at the intercooler piping now. There's a place in near me, an industrial area that sells flexible piping for radiators and yada yada yada. It's all steel lined and it flexes, and I'm thinking that might work really well to go from here down to the little hole that'll go into the intercooler. It's going to save a lot of clamps and bends and joins all through this area here, so I'm going to go have a look at it and see if it'll work, and it's relatively cheap too. And also I've got to get a piece of pipe that goes from the bottom radiator into the water pump in there, and that's a very odd question mark shape, so hopefully this hose works out well. I'm off. Let's see how this works. Alrighty, so I just got back from where I was at, if that makes any sense. I got some flexible hose to sort out my radiator stuff, and I'm also going to run 500ml of this flexible hose from the outlet and inlet of the intercooler and manifold, just to run down here because it does need a bit of flex and I don't want to have 10,000 hose clamps and pipes and stuff. So let's see if I can get this to fit. And yeah, it's going to be tight, but I'll make it work. Alright, so this is the flex pipe, the bottom radiator hose inlet. Marine wet exhaust. Yeah, it's designed to hold, it was like 150 psi pressure and a lot of heat, and it's got a steel coil running around the inside, so it's not going to bust, and it's rated for whatever he told me it was rated for, which is a bit more expensive than the stuff I actually went in to go initially buy, but this has more flex in it, and it's definitely going to hold you know, just a plain old radiator condition. So I got to get this to then twist into that pipe, and it's a pain in the ass, but nothing else is going to do it, so wish me luck. With much stuffing around, and it's a lot stiffer than originally thought, but doesn't matter, it's on, it's good. I just got to get some hose clamps for this. I do have clamps, but because I had to kind of stretch it over the head of the intercooler outlet pipe, these don't have enough tolerance to actually go over the stretch part, so I'm gonna have to just grab some other hose clamps and put them on. But that's on, that's good. It ain't going anywhere. Like that's tough. It's a nice, good quality tough hose, and that's gonna live there quite happily. Now to do the down sections with the same kind of pipe. The thing is, I got to clear this little bracket here. Got to work that out. There is a little rubber grommet there which is giving a bit of space, or making it push out a bit. I might be able to delete that and have it rest firmly against the chassis, just to give me a bit more room past this edge, because it'll probably hit right there. Let's work it out. Alright, well, they were relatively painless, which is good. And that's what they look like. Two flexible hoses for the intercoolers running down. I'm still yet to attach whatever elbows I need to go from these hoses into the actual side of the intercooler there, but that's just going to run down. I'll get whatever I need, a elbow, a U-shape or whatever. But as far as having these on is concerned, that's good. They're tight as. They don't look too bad. I'm not too fussed. I'm not expecting this engine bay to look all fancy pants anyway. Maybe if I want to, I might clean this up at a later date, but I'm happy with the way that looks. It doesn't look all too fast, too furious, blingy, which is really good. So I'm happy with that. So yeah, just a little bit more progress. I might face this one down though, because I can see that green, and I'd like the green. I put the green on this one to face to the bottom so you can't see it, so I might just flip that around. Apart from that, I'm happy with it. So intercooler top pipe is pretty much done now, and same with the radiator. So given that the radiator's sorted, I should be able to fill that with fluid at some point. I do need to put my catchment, my radiator overflow box over here somewhere, but I'm happy with that. Don't know what's next.